Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Aryan Vaid and today we're going to be doing a tutorial and getting to know the Insta360 Luna Ultra. Alright, first things first, this comes in a protective box. What we want to do is understand how it goes tutorial and getting to know the Insta360 Luna Ultra. This would open it up. Now pay attention to how it goes back in because it took me a little bit of time to figure this out. Okay, so this is how it comes in. This is how it comes out. Okay, when you want to put it back in, okay, let's say you've got it on, you've got it powered up, okay, and your camera is kind of facing the front. All right, so essentially, okay, now you decide that, okay, I'm going to turn it off. Okay, I'm going to put it back in. All right, and we turn it back off. Okay, so now when you put this back in, okay, I had to struggle a lot, which is why I'm letting you guys know. So you don't want to do that. Okay, so what you want to do is you see where it curves like this. Okay, so make sure that your lenses are kind of tucked in safely. Okay, put it this way, make sure that the screen is closed and the screen goes in first. Okay, this way. And you're going to see little sections over here. This is where your red little buttons go, and this is it. This is the easiest way to close it. Trust me, I struggled with it for about 5 or 7 minutes till I was finally able to figure it out. All right, let's get to know our device a little bit. Okay, all right, so this comes inbuilt with 47 gigabytes of storage. You can also put in a memory card over here. There it is. And I think you can go up to 1 terabyte. This thing weighs about 235 grams without this cover. Pretty much weighs about what my phone would weigh. And as for its length, this thing is about, I'd say about like 6.7 inches or something like that. But once you put in the extra handle or the extra battery over here, it almost goes up to 7 inches long. So yeah, I wouldn't call it very pocketable. It's just a little bit too long to get into my pocket. And it does come with 2 lenses over here. So the 1-inch sensor, and this is the 1 by 1.3 inch sensor. This, of course, is your main camera, which is the 1x, and this is the telephoto camera, which is the 3x. All right, the screen on this is an OLED screen. It's about 2 inches diagonally, and it's about 1,000 nits. So it does get reasonably bright when you're outside. I haven't had any issue, but of course, it's not as bright as what my phone screen is, and of course not as big. And the one extra feature that we have this time, which is different from any pocket gimbal cameras I've had, I've got the Pocket 3 and the Muse. This one has a detach, and as for its detachable screen, this can function as a remote, so you could be 20-30 feet away from your camera and you could still control it, and you could start your recording, do your framing, pretty much everything from here. So your joystick and all your buttons, your shutter, and everything is on this detachable remote. This remote has a battery in there that charges itself when you're charging this pocket gimbal. It cannot be charged by itself. All right, let's first understand the body of the gimbal. This, as I mentioned, is the detachable remote. Now, this has 2 red buttons on the side which need to be pressed in order to pull it out and to push it back in. Now the way you would push this back in is you would kind of press these 2 red buttons and get your top in first and then push this in and you'll hear a click sound. Now just pay attention that even if the screen is off, and I learned it the hard way, and if I were to turn the screen, okay, let's say I were to turn it, it will turn the camera on, as you can tell. So if you have it in an awkward position, the chances you could do damage to your camera lens or even to the gimbal mechanism. And the focal length on these lenses are main is 20 millimeters, so it's pretty wide. The main camera on a phone is usually about 23 or 24 millimeters, and the 3x on this is 60 millimeters, so it's exactly 3 times of 20 millimeters. I think this camera can be used pretty much for anything. Even if you use it for vlogging, you're not going to have to hold it too far. Like with a phone, sometimes you can get too close to your face if you don't hold your hands far apart. And that's because if you're not using the ultra wide and you're just using the main camera, it can get pretty close to your face. So that's not a problem that you will have with this camera. Now, how about the audio on this? You can connect an external microphone to this. Mic combination, actually, I got this from Costco. It came with the newly launched Insta Mic Air, and that connected with this absolutely easily. I did try to connect some other USB-C microphones, and they would not connect to this, or even other Bluetooth microphones. But you could try in, like the DJI or the Rode Wireless Go, and if they work, that'd be great. But I wasn't able to make any other microphones work with. It also came with an extra attachment, which is the extra handle. This is not a battery, but the advantage of this really, if you look over here, this is your charging port right at the bottom of the camera. So you're going to have to charge it putting your camera this way. Now the advantage with this is this will allow you to connect this. Got the quarter 20. So as you can tell, it has a port over here, and we would just kind of push it in, and we just want to make sure we get it the right way. You can tell, I'm sure it's over 7 inches at this point, but you can now connect this to a tripod. Take this thing off, you just press this button at the front and the side opens up. And it's pretty similar where if you want to push it in, all you do is kind of push this in. All right, so before we get started with the camera, the first thing you want to do is you want to charge this camera. It should take, it says, at least according to the manual, it should go from 0 to 80 with a 30-watt charger. It should go, or it should get charged in about 23 minutes, and the whole camera should charge in about 40 minutes. The one thing I did not understand, because it mentioned that something about the detachable remote being charged to only a certain percentage, which is said if this was 100%, this was only going to charge to about 60% or something like that. I'm not sure if I got that correctly. And how long does the battery typically last? Well, in my tests, I could say at 4K 30, I roughly got somewhere around, I'd say about an hour and 50 minutes, or maybe I could push it to 2 hours, but there were times when I just had the camera on. I wasn't really filming, it stayed on. But yeah, in ideal conditions, I think you'd get at least 90 minutes to 2 hours. The good part is when you are charging this, okay, now that we have it with the extra handle, we're going to charge it. So it's going to show you how much of the battery on the pocket gimbal and the detachable remote has been charged. And if the screen goes off, if the screen's not on, you just tap it once and there you'll be able to see it. And right now our battery is 89% for our detachable remote, and okay, and about 91% for the pocket gimbal. Okay, so let's just understand the buttons on our pocket gimbal here. All right, so starting from here, these are two extra buttons that I've not seen on any camera so far. What these do is, these are custom buttons, which means you could pretty much set them to do anything that you wanted. Let's say you wanted your zoom to be over here. And the best part is you do have combinations. So pressing it once will give you some options. Pressing it twice will give you different options. Okay, I'm just going to turn this on. And this is our joystick over here. This is for the zoom control. I'll show you that once we get to it. These are the buttons in the front over here. Now, over here on the side, I've already shown you. This is where our memory card goes in. As I mentioned, your charging port is at the bottom. But if you have this battery attached to it, your charging port is on the side, which is kind of nice because it allows you to kind of keep it this way. And the package that I got did come with the black mist filter, not the ND filter, but just the black mist filter. So there's a set of two, one for the 1x camera and one for the 3x camera. And it also came with this pouch, which is great. My only concern, honestly, is I don't like, even though I do carry a lot of heavy cameras if I'm filming, I hate carrying, large cameras and carrying an extra bag and stuff like that. So this is a great protective cover for it. The only problem is, honestly, is that this is not going to fit into my jeans pocket. So yeah. On this cover, you can place your wide angle lenses, which if you get the creator combo, it does come with the wide angle, with the wide angle lenses, and I think the ND filters. But anyway, I didn't get the wide angle lenses with the Costco package. You get the wide angle lenses and the ND filters, but you instead of you kind of putting them in your pouch, there's a storage space right inside this protective case over here. And of course, it came with this microphone. Now, it took me a little bit of time to kind of figure out this microphone. I've never used a microphone like this. I mean, I've used a lot of external wireless microphones, just not too many Bluetooth ones. I don't really like the sound coming out of them. And here, I mean, it's a good microphone. It worked really well. But here is the problem with the microphone, is that the only way to charge it is with this magnetic charger. And this is a USB type A, which, I mean, luckily I had something to plug this into a USB type A, but most of us have a type C to type C. So I guess it's just me nitpicking, but yeah, so here's the microphone, and it would kind of go in over here like this, and then you would plug this in to charge it. It also comes with a magnetic in-collar t-shirt lapel, so you could put this in there, or a clip. I mean, the microphone's pretty nice, but honestly, when I was making the unboxing video, for some reason, I thought it was like almost $100. I went online, I looked at Amazon today, and the magnet's pretty strong though. But anyway, it's $35. So, which is a good thing still, because Costco, because I know for $764 or $765, whatever I got it for, there's nothing extra if you get it from the website of the Insta360. But with Costco, you get a few extra things thrown in. I forgot to mention, but the microphone does come with this wind guard over here. So we go in, yep, like this, and then you'd have this clipped on. Get this out. Now this has a small little button over here. You press this, and I don't know if the camera will capture, but there'll be like a blue light that should come on now. And I'm gonna just turn this on and show you real menu is like. Okay. And here we go into a wireless mic in order to connect that, and the Insta360. Now you may have there, it's already started and it's already recording. As you can tell by that meter here, it is already recording that back. All right, you can see the green bar over there, and as I bring it closer, you can see how that bar is almost turning red. So the audio is clipping, but of course I'm not going to have it this close to me. I'll probably have it somewhere here. There it is, it's clipped together now with the microphone, and I already have a microphone there, but yeah, as you can tell over here, that is picking up the audio pretty well. Yeah, so this microphone is real easy. I just had to kind of download the latest firmware for the microphone, and also once you turn on this camera, it's going to make you register by downloading the Insta360 app. And one other thing that I forgot to mention about the microphone, when it's connected to your Luna Ultra, you can control the shutter, so you can turn your recording on and off or take pictures just by using that. But the problem with that is the button's so tiny, and to find it where exactly it is, it does take some finding, so I'm not really comfortable doing that. So now we're going to connect it to our phone over here. Okay, and as you can tell, we have a phone over here, and this is now asking for permission. I just downloaded the app. All right, and you'll be able to see the phone is now connecting to it. So it will ask to connect to the Wi-Fi of the camera. Yes, allow that. All right, so let's get started with the camera. Now there are two ways to turn on. One, of course, you could just flip the screen, and that should get your camera started, even though it won't start the recording, but you have that in settings where you could do that, but we'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, the other way, and this is also one of the ways in which you could turn off the camera, just flip that screen and the camera should go off. The other way to turn this camera on is by pressing the shutter button, which has a red colored circle on it. Okay, so I would just press this. There it is. My camera has come on now. Now this, our joystick, okay, is to control. Just look at the head right now. So there it is. So you can control it to go up, down, left, right. Now the other thing is, this is not a 360-degree gimbal. It does have an endpoint. You can see it has reached its endpoint. The shutter button okay, now that we have our camera on, okay, the shutter button will obviously, you press it once, it'll start the recording, okay, press it again, it'll stop the recording, same thing it'll do with the pictures. If you have it in the photo mode, it'll do that. You long press it, as I pointed out, it'll turn the camera off. Now this pocket gimbal has 4 microphones on it. Yep, 3 on the body over here, and one of them here in this detachable remote, so which is fantastic because this will pick up your audio even when you're further away from the microphone, so you don't really need a dedicated external microphone. But of course, if you want to get the best audio, you would do that. Now at the back here, you've got the wind guard. This is not detachable, so don't try to pull it off. At least I have not been able to take this off the body. Okay, also one other thing that I forgot to mention, you see how these metal plates are over here, and you have the same over here. So this will help you kind of align it here. Just kind of align it and push it back in. I'm sorry, one quick little correction. And when you're facing the gimbal, or in this situation, and I mentioned that the 1x was this side. Okay, nope, I think I had it wrong. This is the 3x, okay, and this is the 1x. The sensor size on the main camera is a 1-inch sensor, so it'll do pretty well in low light. It's bigger than the one on your phone for sure. And the 3x is 1 by 1.3 inches, which is still substantially bigger than the one, at least on my phone. The aperture on both of these is fixed. This one is f by 1.8 and this one is f by 2.0. Pretty large apertures. The one on my phone is a fixed f 1.7 and these are fixed as well, so you cannot change the aperture on these. And if you were to double press this, just watch the head. Here it is. It will recenter the gimbal. For purposes of the shoot, let's take it up now. Okay, I'm going to press twice. And you saw it was recentered. Okay, pressing it 3 times. What does that do? Well, hopefully you'll remember all these. Almost every gimbal works in the same way. So once you get the hang of it, it should be easier. So I'm going to press it 3 times now. 1, 2, 3. What did it do? Well, it turned 180 degrees. Okay, so you're out there, you want to vlog, and you press this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. The one function I forgot to mention is that if you were to kind of hold this, just kind of hold the joystick for a couple of seconds, that's going to enable deep tracking, or if there's a bunch of people in your picture or your video, it's going to track all of them. So that's what that does. All right, our next button is the zoom slider over here, which you can see with the green LED above it. Okay, now that zoom slider, okay, and it's going to zoom in if you kind of hold it there longer. And now as I zoom out, so it's going to go back to the 1x. It does take a little bit of time, and it goes up to 12x. All right, and if you were to just kind of slide it upwards but do it real quick, so it would change the magnification. It would go from, to change the focal length, it would go from 1x to 2x, which it's doing on the main camera. But say you press this again, and now you've got 3x over there. On the body of this camera, right up here, this is kind of like the cooling area. And the only reason why I bring it up, honestly, so it's right above your lenses, is because in my testing, I found this camera getting pretty hot. And that's another thing that I should mention. The manual says that you can only operate it between temperatures of 0 and 40 degrees centigrade, which seems like a fairly large amount of bandwidth. Or in terms of Fahrenheit, I think be 32 to 104, which seems like it's a lot. But I was in India recently, and it was so hot that my Samsung would just stop working after a point. And I was trying to take a lot more videos. It just wouldn't let me because it would say the camera's gotten so hot. Because this already gets pretty warm, even though I've been using it inside air-conditioned spaces. So I don't know if it's 40 degrees out there or 104. I don't know how long the camera is going to last. And this, of course, is a joystick, as I pointed out earlier. Okay, so I'm just going to turn this around where it'll face me. And the reason why I'm doing that, okay, now that it's kind of facing me, as soon as I press this, you're going to see that it's going to say deep track enabled, and it's going to start tracking me. So when I move, this is going to move with me. Here it is, as you can tell. And the minimum focal distance on the main lens, which is the 1x, is about 3.5 inches. So you need to be about, I'd say, like about this far from it for it to be able to focus on the object pretty close. So which is pretty good, because even if you were doing, say, product photography or videography, you'd be able to do it on this. And on the 3x, I think it's close to about 6 inches. So you need to be away from the camera by about 6 inches. Now, remember when I mentioned that this has the two custom buttons, okay? You can kind of decide what they do, but let's just press it, and there, it's kind of set to do that. It's kind of set to flip the gimbal. Let's press the right one, and it will give you the options for the filters. Okay, pay attention to the indicator lights over here, okay? Now, when it's a solid green, it means that the camera is in standby. And let's say I turn on the recording, you're going to see it start to flash red slowly. That means it's recording. I turn this off, it's going to go back to the solid green. Now when I turn the camera off, it's going to flash quickly and then turn off, and same thing when I turn it on again, it's going to flash, go back to a solid green, and the camera is in standby again. When we're charging a pocket gimbal, you're going to see a solid orange light over here, and once you can also tap this, as I mentioned, to see what percentage of the battery has been charged. But if the, let's say the screen was off, that light will go off once both the camera and the remote are 100% charged. This light were to turn yellow and it were to flash, that would mean that either there's something wrong with the storage on this camera or the SD card, or something is wrong with the way it's writing on that storage, or something is wrong, either the camera is too hot or too cold. And also, if your battery is too low, this will turn yellow and flash 3 times. All right, so let's get to know the menus on our camera a little bit. On the screen, this here tells us how much of recording time is left. I have not added any kind of memory card, so this is just the inbuilt. I've got some files on it. It says 1 hour and 9 minutes is what I've got left. Okay, this hand gesture here shows that I could kind of control the recording or control how to take a picture. Usually the sign for that is if you show your palm, it should start recording. It hasn't worked for me always, but yeah, and if you want to stop it, show your palm again. I mean, it might work for you. This, of course, shows how much battery is left here. So it says 68% and 48%. 68% in this detachable remote and about 48% in the whole camera, okay? This is, of course, our focal length. So I'm just going to hit it this way. Okay, so now it's a 2x zoom, and now it's 3x. So it has switched cameras at the moment. Okay, and we can go up to a 12x zoom on this, but that is a digital zoom and not an optical zoom. So we're going to go back. All right, so there it is. This, of course, is to flip our gimbal. Okay, so go from the front to the back. After that, if we move on, this, of course, to control the resolution that we shoot in. So once you go here, you could say, 4K, 8K. Now, it does go up to 8K 30 frames a second, or 4K up to 120 frames a second, and 1080p, as I mentioned, it can go up to 240. Aspect ratio, you can decide if you want it to be 16:9. I can change that over here, 235:1, which is what you'd have if you had an anamorphic lens. And then it also does 1:1. The advantage of shooting in a 1:1 would be that you would be able to take it and turn it either into an Instagram reel, which would be 9:16, or if you want a YouTube video, which would be 16:9. Let's go back here, all right, and when you shoot vertically on this, automatically the camera is going to default to 3K. It's not too much of a resolution loss, but just something you should know. And this, of course, is to change our modes. The modes that we have here are video. This will go into photos. Now, this does go up to 37 megabytes and also up to 200, I'm sorry, 200 megapixel. Anyway, so you can go here, you can decide the panoramic, time shift, time lapse. Now, time lapse, as you know, is where the camera is stationary, but it's going to take pictures at a set interval, which could be every 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depending on you, and then it kind of stitches them all together to give you one video. Well, it's best for, say, capturing like the movement of clouds and stuff like that. And motion lapse on this, I think it's called time shift. This is when you're doing the same thing, except this time the camera is not stationary, but it's going to move, and that it will capture pictures at a set interval. Right. And slow motion, of course, we know what that is. And PureVideo. This is something that's native to the Insta cameras off late, which is essentially the low light mode. You switch on to this, and the sensor automatically kind of denoises the footage. I'm sorry, not the sensor, but the processor denoises the footage and kind of cleans it up. So this is a really cool feature, and I tried it even with the Insta Ace Pro 2. It was beating the footage coming out of my phone, even though my phone has a bigger sensor and a wider aperture, but it was doing that, with the processor. But when I took it back, interestingly, when I took it back to my computer and I saw it on a bigger screen, this footage came apart and it was kind of had a lot of pixelation and everything on it, right? And then we've got our video mode and back to our photo mode over here. Let's understand the menu a little bit more. So when you pull it from the top to the bottom, this is kind of like the main menu. So this, of course, would control the brightness, lower it from here, or increase it. This is the sound of the prompts. Now you could decide high, medium, low, and mute. This is the sound you're going to get when every time you turn on and off the recording or any other kind of system sounds from it. It's not the volume of the recorded video. This is deciding on what mode you want to shoot in. When you have this locked into your landscape mode, you can change it to portrait, and then you can make it adaptive. Now in adaptive, what's going to happen is when you turn the screen this way, it is not going to turn off, but that's how it's going to be. So the gimbal won't actually turn off. Now these are the general settings. Okay, so screen rotation operation, mine says power off right now. You could decide what you want it to keep powered on or power off. Now gesture control, I'll get to the general in just a minute. Gesture control is on, so let's click on it. So for the recording gesture, it says just show your palm, but like I said, it's a hit or a miss to start or stop the recording, and to enable tracking as well. So if you want to start the tracking, honestly, it hasn't worked for me. So, and if you show the peace sign like this, it will take a picture. Okay, screen reader, I like it off. What it means is that anytime you change any operation on the screen, it's going to actually speak it out for you. I don't really want that. Wi-Fi settings, you could go in and change your Wi-Fi password. Now, what that means is that the Wi-Fi on this camera will connect to your phone when you're using the app. So that's what that's going to do, all right? And connect to the app over here. So if you want to connect to the app, you didn't have it, you could just scan the QR code here and do selfie mirroring. I think we all know what that is. We have it on our phones as well. I like to leave it off because if you have it on, let's say there's some alphabets behind you or there's some letters behind you, it's going to see them reverse, and then you're going to have to go in your editing and kind of correct that. Video bitrate, I like it high. You can set it to standard or high. Anti-flicker, depending on what part of the world you're in. Here in America, it's 60. So I've got a 60 hertz, or you could do 120, but not on this, or you could just do auto. And basically the flickering is what you're going to get when you're shooting another screen or when you're shooting some lights and stuff like that. And zoom speed over here, you could decide that you want it to be medium, fast, or slow. I like it to be slow, but it just depends on you. So once you use this zoom slider, it will kind of decide at what speed it's going to zoom in. Yeah, lens defog is an interesting feature because let's say you're in an air-conditioned room and you go out into the open and it's kind of really humid, and sometimes you see how your glasses also tend to fog up. So this will actually heat up the lens just a little so it doesn't fog up. I haven't tried it, but I guess you could. Language is set to English, date and time. And here it is for your reset tutorial, factory reset and camera info. Quick capture is an interesting feature because what this says is you can rotate the screen over here. So what that means is, let's say this was turned off, okay, and my screen was off, okay. Now I just turn my screen on, camera comes on, and the quick capture is going to make the recording start right away. That would save you a few precious seconds. I usually leave it off, but let's say you stop your recording now, it's going to turn off the camera automatically. So that way you would save some battery, and it's going to turn it off in about 3 or 4 seconds. And now we've got the gimbal mode. So essentially the roll lock essentially means that it's going to kind of lock the roll axis, and it's going to move the gimbal at a pan like this and up and down. The next mode is the roll and tilt lock, which means that the camera in this will not even move up and down. You usually want to use that. So it'll just pan this way. All the other axes will be locked. You usually want to have that. Let's say you're walking and you're vlogging or something like that. You don't want that bob motion in your footage. So the FPV, or the point of view, essentially means all the motors are going to be unlocked, and it's going to follow the movement of your hand, whichever way you go, up, down, roll, pan. So yeah, all the motors are unlocked at that point. Okay, so in the FPV V mode, okay, what it says is that the camera is pretty much going to follow all the directions of your hand. But if the camera were recentered, like right now it's recentered, you remember when you press this twice, this is recentered, okay? At that point, what's going to happen is some lightning and thunder. But anyways, what's going to happen at that point is that it's going to kind of stay kind of, in that position. So it'll move in all other axes, but it'll get locked into that recentered position. All right, so let's get kind of done with this. All right, now audio settings. Okay, so current audio input device is built-in microphone, but you could connect anything else. Sound effects settings, I've left mine to stereo, and I've left it to auto wind noise reduction, but you could change that. Yeah, and sound direction is omni, which means all the microphones are going to pick up my sound. But if you were, let's say, just vlogging in a certain direction, you wanted that to change, you could do that. And this is why I had to kind of come in, because it just started pouring, and you can see you probably can't see a thunder, but it is raining like crazy. And that thunder in Tampa, I'm telling you, that thing is something to worry about. And now the built-in audio sync, I don't really have any use for it, because what that's going to do is, once it's on, your audio file will be saved as a separate file. So you could go back into your editing software, and at that point, you could decide if you wanted to use that and kind of place it as a separate file. But I don't think most of the people are going to use that. And the wireless mic, of course, the Insta360 mic that came with it, you would just connect that to this, and you can connect up to 2 microphones. If you're shooting like a vlog, if you're shooting like a podcast or something, you could shoot it on this. Right, custom buttons. So just remember the one we spoke about here, right here are the custom buttons. Okay, so let's say what we want to do with the right buttons. Okay, so here I can select from these options, which says the exposure value adjustment, gimbal return to center, lock, unlock gimbal, and switch focal length. So I can decide what I want the right button to do, and I can also decide if I press it once or twice what it's going to do. So you could decide that on the basis of whichever way you want it to. Now, in my case, I've chosen gimbal return to center, but you could also switch filters and stuff like that. So this was for single press. Now, same thing with the left button. Okay, so now we move to the left button. Okay, so once again, say you have different set of options. You single press it, you could flip the camera, double press enter 360 panoramic. So you have a few options over there, and accessories. So you could add Bluetooth accessories to connect to this, namely a watch, or if there was any other device that you wanted to connect, you could do that, like your AirPods and stuff like that. All right, so now real quick, okay, so here it currently shows you that I don't have an SD card, and I'm using 5 gigabytes of the 47 gigabyte storage space. So this is your storage management over here. All right, once you kind of move it from the left to the right, that should open up like your gallery, which has all your videos and whatever you've shot. I could kind of see them all over here. And I can decide which ones I want to keep, which ones I want to favorite, and which ones I want to delete. Here is good old Jessica. Say hello. Hello. Now, as you go from the right to the left, as you swipe, you have the option of switching this to a pro mode. And you can stay in the basic mode. You can have your beauty features on or off, smoothing your skin. I guess it also kind of makes your face look just a little bit slimmer. It's a nice feature to have. And whatever filters you may decide, I think it's got a total of maybe about 7 or 8. Yep. So you could decide to apply one of those filters and just kind of film with that. And your EV value, which is the exposure value, you could go all the way from -4 to +4. Okay, for the time being, we just leave it at 0 over here. Now let's go back into the Pro mode. Okay. Now in the Pro mode, what you can do in your standard or Dolby Vision, all the color modes in this are 10 bits, which is fantastic. You can also choose to record in the RAW format and taking it back and coloring it. It just tends to retain the dynamic range of the image or the video much better. So here it is, iLog, Dolby Vision, and Standard. You also have options here. You could leave balance to auto, and here is where you could adjust the contrast and saturation and the sharpness of the image. Now, face priority, I always want that on. So let's say that it was a little dark, but it would kind of lighten up the face just a little, so it would make it a little more brighter. Okay, and your autofocus is set to the center. Okay, and lastly, we can go in over here and here. So here you can adjust your shutter speed over here by just pressing on the shutter sign over there. You get from down here on the left-hand corner, and then you could kind of go. I mean, I usually shoot at 30 frames a second most, but that means the shutter speed would be double of my frame rate. So since I'm shooting at 30 frames a second, if you wanted, you could leave this at 1/60 or 1/50 if you were shooting at 25 or 24 frames a second. I usually don't mess around with this. With these cameras, they just come out with such great colors just out of the camera. But if you wanted, you would have that option. As for the ISO, I would just hit that, go from auto to manual over here, and you can go all the way from 100 to 6400. Here it is. And that is if you're shooting in manual mode. So if you were, let's say, to increase the ISO, which is kind of like creating artificial light in your picture, you're going to get a lot of pixelation. I would recommend, honestly, with these cameras, just kind of shooting with them, in auto mode. But again, if you have an ND filter and, you want to use it that way, by all means. If you do have an ND filter, I would recommend kind of having your ISO to its lowest value possible in that situation, which here is 100. But depending on where you are, if you're indoors, you're outdoors, if it's cloudy, you can kind of make those adjustments. Now, the EV adjustment is not going to be available in the manual mode because it's expecting you to control the exposure through the ISO and the shutter speed. All right, guys, so that was the tutorial. I am going to make a few more videos with the Insta360 Luna Ultra, and we're going to take it out, try different modes on it. I also have the black mist filter, and I'm also going to order the ND filters. So we're going to take it out and kind of see how the camera behaves. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you think you got any value out of this video, please like this video, share, subscribe. All right, thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.